Yeah, okay. Friday was interesting. I'll recap it, I guess, one more time ad nauseum. It was a disappointing night on a lot of levels. You go back and watch the video. We actually performed pretty well for the most part, with the exception of floor, where we were walking around all night on every single first four floor routines. I think we gave away 5.5, 6/10 of execution that I could identify right there at the end, which would have put us where we wanted to be, right at that 190, would have put us at 198, just from that alone. So when you look at the meet as a whole, I thought beam was really impressive. The first 5 routines were great. Sammy went in last minute and had a mistake, but replacing Kaya. I think the biggest thing was there were so many behind the scenes distractions throughout the week, with cause for concern, I guess, whether they were diagnosable injuries or not, and trying to figure out what the lineups are going to be, and then making moves and getting to the meet and having Kaya hurt her other leg and making adjustments and those kinds of things. You can't let those things distract you. Yet we did, and so it cost us a meet, and then of course what I maintain is the gross misinterpretation of a rule. The rule says that if a piece of equipment fails by no fault of the gymnast or the coach, that there are remedies in place, yada yada. Clearly the video showed that the gymnast's second foot never even got on top of the beam. She was clearly falling off the beam, and her foot came back in and hit the end cap and partially dislodged it. I don't see how in the world that's ever going to be interpreted as equipment failure, but nonetheless, same piece of equipment operated well before and after. Cost us the W, but it wouldn't have changed our score, and our score really was the disappointing part of the whole thing. So we move on, and now we've got Utah, which is a big one. I mean, they're on a roll. They're getting healthier. Things for them seem to be moving in a really good direction. They suffered some disappointing losses early in the season that seem to have righted their ship a little bit, both against Cal and against Arizona State. So I know that they're coming in here with the intent of giving us their best shot. Should be a great meet, top to bottom. If we can field everybody that we hope to field, it should be highly competitive, and hopefully we'll have a great crowd in there again this weekend. We are recognizing this meet is our recognition meet for the 50 years of Title IX and all the progress that has been made over the years, and how the landscape and sports in general has changed as a result in such a positive way, and provided so many opportunities for female athletes and coaches like myself on the female side of sport. Yet it also, what we find as we go through, is that we've still got a lot to do. We've still got a lot of disparity that exists. Some of that is market driven, and some of it is not. And there are things that continue to need to be addressed on the Title IX issue, and there are things that we want to speak out for when we get the opportunity. And so this is one of those opportunities that we want to take a moment and recognize those things, and create an increasing awareness about what Title IX means on this campus, and going forward for women's sports in general.
Questions?
We use Will as an example, since you're just in here, and he told us one time earlier this season about talking to the head of officials after a game that displeased him. Is there anyone you can talk to afterward? Well, I know once it's done, it's done. But is there any head of officials that can come to you and say, "Hey, our officials of that meet screwed that up"?
Yeah, I've lodged. I've been pushing whatever buttons I can push. I think that I've spoken to the conference about it. I've written a letter that will go to our Coaches Association. Has not yet, but I intend to get that sent out hopefully today. That'll probably wind up with the Officials Association. I don't think there's any recourse. I think more than anything, there needs to be an awareness and a deeper specificity that doesn't allow for any of that ambiguous sort of judgment call. It certainly was not. What happened in that routine is the equivalent, and I said this, I believe, in the post-meet press conference. We have that pad, as you guys probably would call it, that yellow thing that goes around the vaulting board on vault. That's a safety mechanism there in case the gymnast overruns or something, that they don't just miss the board. There's a surface there they would hit that increases their safety level. That is not a functional part of the equipment. If they were to hit that, it protects them from injury, but it doesn't protect them from falling necessarily on their vault. And if they were to fall, they wouldn't get to redo that, because that would be more of a user error type same exact scenario, probably more so, occurred, and somehow it got interpreted as equipment failure. I've had an official who saw it tell me it was the wrong call. So I don't think it changes anything, and I'm not going to belabor the point any more than that. But I do think there needs to be some increased, like I said, specificity that eliminates the possibility of misinterpreting what that rules. That rule's there if some kid's grip rips in half while they're swinging, or the bars collapse, or the vaulting table slips out of its position and pops down when they make contact with it, or something like that that is completely out of the control of the kid or the coach. It's not there for what was a routine that had one fall and a second one in progress when contact with an inoperable, non-functional part of an equipment gets hit. I mean, the absurdity of that is a little bit laughable.
Brandon laughed.
He knows every now and then I won't let one slip.
You did great.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Your 6 seniors in various stages of their career, competing, not competing, et cetera. Could you just talk about what they meant to the program, obviously, and even though they may not see action, I don't know if you're going to try to, get them any kind of work in this one or not, but.
Yeah, I'm really, seniors year in and year out, I say this to seniors a lot when we have opportunity to celebrate them. More times than not, you learn more from the kids than they learn from you. If you're really trying to grow at what you're doing as a coach, you pick up things from each group of young women that come through your program, and this class is no exception to that. They came in a time when I was trying to figure out how to recruit to LSU. I had recruited at another place a long time, and the kids that I recruited prior to them while I was here, I already had sort of an existing rapport with from when I was at another institution. And so they came in and they were part of that learning process with me. The most part, they've been largely role players. They haven't always gotten their press clippings, and yet they've been irreplaceable and big contributors where they've been put. And so, in a lot of cases, their names have not always gotten the recognition that they deserved. But I think internally we know the impact that they've had as a class, and they're great people. They're people that I'm very close to personally, that we care for deeply, and just proud of the fact that they wanted to come back. There are places where seniors didn't want to come back. They wanted to come back for a litany of reasons, and one of those is that they love LSU and they love this place, and I'm glad that they feel that way as they wrap up their careers. And we're going to celebrate them this weekend. I told our team yesterday we don't eulogize our seniors, and I don't want a bunch of emotional breakdown over it. They're not dying. This is a celebration of their career, not something. But sometimes those things, the emotions of it, can go awry if you're not careful. But a great group of young women, and just very proud to have been associated with them.
And then just Courtney and Garrett, and getting the home meet. Was that on the books before?
No, it was on the books before. Okay. Bob Moore got Utah on the schedule long before we knew there was going to be any kind of coaching changes.
Just to have that familiarity with each other, then.
Yeah, I mean they know the program. They know those kids. In another sport there might be some advantage to it or something if you knew what kind of schemes you were going up against, and defensive formations or anything like that, but that's just not how it works for us. So it's more of a familiarity just with the personalities, and they have a love for the people that are at Utah, but we make no mistake, they want to win, and we want to win this weekend big time.
I don't want to belabor a point, but I want to go back to the beam cap because I was trying to figure something out, ask you this. But first of all, your reaction to officiating is much more laid back than Will, so congratulations on that.
He's working on it.
You didn't look at me and say, did you think the beam cap fell off, Ron?
Right.
Is there any kind of replay that they can look at? I mean, that they can, on the spot, that they can see what, like, what actually happened? And will there ever be any kind of...
We have video review in the postseason that we can use, but I don't know in that case that it could have been used, because I have no ability to video review what happens for another team. And the officials, as the way our rules are, they don't voluntarily go to the monitor, so to speak, and look at something. I don't know that the meet referee really even saw what happened, other than she was listening to the Kentucky staff and the officials that were there watching it. I think were told that they needed to let her go again. I don't think it's intentional, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I know there's all kind of stuff out there right now floating around that we're all getting hammered by officials in every sport, but I don't believe that, and I'm not questioning anybody's integrity when I say this. I just think it was a miscarriage of what is a well-intentioned rule that needs to be. This is win-loss, as much as it doesn't dictate our outcome in the postseason. It matters. It matters in this conference, and that clearly dictated who won and who lost.
It just seemed like when somebody gets a do-over like that, no matter what happens, it should be reviewed before they were given the do-over.
You'd like to think that, but in our sport, the gears move very slowly for change. And I think that the more television has gotten involved, we're starting to see these things that need to be, because there's a greater amount of awareness now. There's a greater amount of exposure that a lot of times these things were never known about if they were ever happened. I've never had anything like this happen in 32 years. I've never seen anything like that happen. I've seen actual equipment failure. I've seen bars literally fall over while a kid was swinging on them. That's equipment failure. This was not.
Yeah, Coach, do you have an update on Kaya after her setback during warm-ups last week?
She's still hurt. Didn't train yesterday. It appears to be it's the other leg, calf muscle, and it's very painful. It doesn't appear to be anything long-term. It's just the timing of it right now for us is difficult. There's no way to get around a calf anything when you do what she does, and so we're hopeful that we'll have her in a couple of spots, but I'm doubtful we'll have her on all four.
And with postseason play looming, I guess, how close is this team to, I guess, the level they need to be at for that?
If we have our full complement of athletes and their relative health to this time of year is where it ought to be, I feel great about our chances. The question is, we haven't been able to field the same lineup once. It's one thing after another, and it gets to be frustrating. It's not on them, but these injuries that we keep getting, and then we kind of work our way through one, and something else pops up with another, and it's just been one of those situations where it's just been frustrating to get any kind of continuity and get into a rhythm week over week over week has been very challenging for this group. From an ability level, if we can get them all there at the right time, I'm confident in this group. And I've felt good about the ones who have had to go in and have done the job admirably when called upon. I think their heart's good. They're fighting through a lot of things. I do think that we showed a little bit of little crack in our armor. I think we let some of the distractions in warm-ups and with injury things that happened during the meet get to us, and I think that bore itself out. I still think we did enough to win the meet, but it wouldn't have been what it wouldn't have been what we wanted from a scoring. It wouldn't have changed our score. Our score was what it was. So I don't really know how to answer that because there's so many question marks right now. Haley's a question mark. We're looking at something in her foot right now. So I don't have anything on that specifically other than we're hoping that it's going to be okay.
I want to jump back to Kaya real quick. When you have a calf injury, are you then worried about the Achilles?
I think she is because of it's the side where she had an Achilles injury in high school. So theoretically, that Achilles is virtually bulletproof. That shouldn't be a problem because when they repair those things, it's literally like I think wrapped with some sort of Kevlar or something. I mean, it is. Those things are thick and strong from that point on. It's rare that you would ever re-injure. I've never heard of it. Maybe I could be corrected by someone in the medical field, but I think it worries her. I think it's a worrisome thing, and it probably comes from favoring the side that's hurting, and so that's what we're dealing with Haley too, with the plantar fascia. Now the other side's hurting, and a lot of times they don't even realize. I mean, it's not something that's detectable to the naked eye. We watch their gait, and we try to watch the way they punch and take off, and make sure that they're not favoring too much on one side or the other. But the reality is that when you're concerned about one side, you tend to do that, and sometimes it's not even detectable by somebody watching. So my guess is that that's where it's come from, but I there's no way to know that.
So I know she had the ongoing Achilles problem. Is this new injury? Is this to her other legs? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is not on the one that we've been careful with. That we've just been managing for the last 2 years. This is on the other side.
Obviously, you have some issues with depth now. It's starting to be with some of these events.
It's my own fault. I walked in here and said we don't have depth if we don't use it. Well, now we use it. So
I hate to pick on one gymnast, but I was wondering about Sammy. She's only giving you above a 9.775 on beam one time this year. Is it? And I know you don't want to change that lineup late in the season, but is that a spot where you have anyone else you want to consider?
Sammy wasn't in the last meet until Kaya went down. We were trying to give her kind of a chance to reset, her approach a little bit, and had to put her back in there, and it was in not an ideal spot to have to do that. So some of that's circumstantial. I will never lose confidence in Sammy Durante. I will tell you that right now. I mean, she's proven to us for 5 years now what she's capable of. I know it frustrates her if she has a mistake like that, but those will be decisions that we make in the gym based on training, performance, and pressure situations that we create. We wouldn't put somebody out there that wasn't earning it. So, I don't have any cause for doubt on Sammy Durante or anybody else based on struggle. They go through struggles. Every athlete does that from time to time. I don't care what sport it is. You can be the biggest star on the stage, and people at some point or another begin to question why a certain performance, why their level of performance is where it is.
What was up in the Olympics?
We've seen it everywhere, the greatest ever. And we see it with any sport on this campus. And I can think of the examples right off the top of my head, but I'm not going to pick on a particular athlete.
Do you need this meet? You have to have this score?
We need every meet. From that standpoint, or is it going to change much in terms of our postseason positioning? No. Do we need it? We need it for a confidence standpoint. We need it for a morale standpoint. We need to be able to hopefully get people in positions where they're feeling more and more comfortable as we head into the postseason. We're not in an ideal spot to do that, as I've just illustrated by some of the question marks that are there. But yeah, we need it. I think we need it. Our fans need it, and we want to do a good job. We want to finish strong. I mean, every meet matters. We're probably our seeding. We know we're going to be in the evening session at SECs. We know approximately where we're going to be as a national seed. not much is going to change in terms of that we can forecast at this point.
And this has the potential to be kind of juicy, right? I mean, there's a lot of hype in this one.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's why they're on the schedule. You know, we want to bring. We feel like I want our out of conference schedule. Ideally, would be recognizable teams with tradition, teams that we want. When you have a large fan base, I feel like you owe that to your fans. I don't think, from our standpoint, we ever want to bring in cupcakes and have it not be intriguing for our fan base. You know, when you do this, when you adopt that philosophy, you run the risk that things aren't always going to line up the way you want them to. But I want our fans to be excited about the competition that's coming into the PMAC when they come and sit down and pay money to come watch it and bring their kids and everything else. So teams like Utah and going forward, next year we got Oklahoma coming in here. And so we want to get those kinds of teams on the schedule, the sort of the blue bloods of our sport, and continue to challenge ourselves to beat those teams.